Okay, here we go to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another update from you from channel favorite Nodus, and actually friends of the channel. They were kind enough to send us in these three different variations of the Sector watch, whether it be the Sport with the salmon dial, the Field with the Malibu dial, or the Pearl Diver with the white dial. So all very nice, similar in terms of their pricing points here, which we'll get into. But the nice thing is these kind of cover that everyday outdoor adventure watch. And then the nice thing is they're actually able to even break it down further into a particular aesthetic that each of them has, which honestly are quite different, but also at the same time quite alike in a lot of ways. Now, a little bit about Nodus. They were founded back in 2016 out of Long Beach and LA County here in California. Nodus is Latin for node, which is the internal section of two paths where quality meets affordability, heritage meets modernity, and design meets functionality in terms of kind of why they chose the word Nodus to represent their brand. I think they really have strong value propositions, within the micro brand space, and they honestly caught my eye very early on with really their first model, and I've been keeping tabs ever since, and I have a couple of their watches in my own personal collection, which I've purchased. So yeah, I'm digging them. They've restocked new colorways along the way, as well as some new variations. So definitely check the links below in terms of current availability. The Sport model is $450, the Field model is $450, and the Dive model is $500 with that black DLC bezel that you see there in the center, or you can get it for $75 with the stainless steel bezel insert, and that's all direct for e-commerce through the Nodus website. These are all 38 millimeters in diameter. They're all 12.5 millimeters thick with a 47 millimeter lug to lug, and I dig all of them. These probably aren't my main choices in terms of colorways, but you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. These are the kind of rotation traveling versions that they had available, so I appreciate them even sending them my way, especially considering how backlogged I've been over the holiday break, just with a lot going on with the family. So with all that said, let's zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, so first of all, they came, amazingly enough, 3 watches in a 2-watch roll from Nodus. So just goes to show they see these as tool pieces that, they might get a little rough, they might get a little tumbled, and it's not a big deal. These, and I think that's something that for me is a real selling point for the brand, is that, yeah, they understand that these aren't heirloom pieces. Maybe they will be more widely collectible one day, considering, if the brand continues to grow and scale. But at the end of the day, they're tool watches. They're meant to be worn, and they're, again, it's about having that intersection where it's wearable but also quite capable. So really digging that. The Sport has a brushed finish. The Field has a matte blasted finish, while the Diver, of course, has a brushed and polished finish. But they all actually do technically have polishing on them. Yes, even the matte Field watch has polishing. Let's see here, check it out. Polishing here, which actually makes this bezel appear to be black. It's not, it's just polished. So those of you who were like, I don't dig the black bezel, guys, it's just polished. And then also you're getting beautiful beveled chamfers there on the case, and a very similar case profile. Even the bracelet there, as you can see, very nice. Everything you're looking for, screws there, quite fantastic. And then you get the sporty kind of transitional, where you can really wear this in a lot more different ways. I'd say, like, this is kind of that sweet spot in terms of the everyday style. And then you're still getting, of course, some nice polished chamfers and everything. Great H-link. you know, beautiful transitions between brushed and polished. And then you get this bad boy, which is, you know, I'd say the most different, especially with this beads of rice bracelet. Definitely ties in to that kind of skin diver style. And it's really great. I probably would have gone with the steel bezel, but I think the black bezel looks really great, and you can see it's really well executed. Check that out. Let's actually get a little bit of the action on here. Ooh. Yes. I dig it. Nice and notchy. Very audible clicks, but still quite smooth and easy to grip. Like, the action isn't overly notchy. It's definitely on the notchier side, but yeah, I'd say that is a pleasure to turn. So digging that. And this dial is really quite fantastic. As you can see, it's really just a really pale silver that is going to render a white, you know, visually when you are just walking around with this bad boy, you know, outside and whatnot. And then also a difference, you can see the raised indices here versus more of just, you know, really thickly applied. And then on the other side, or I should say it's really thickly applied, like printed on Loom. And then here is going to be, you know, a little bit more of the standard affair in terms of being a printed dial. Really, again, all of them very awesome in their own ways, and kind of a cool, I guess, 3-tone-ish combo to go together here to look at. And another difference is the crowns. You can see knurled crowns here, which are great, and I will say absolutely grippy and fantastic. And then on this bad boy, you have a little bit more of a traditional coin edge, which works out really well. It's a great look. Oh man, look at the transitions between the matte and the polished, the matte and the polished. The steps there really help break down this silhouette. It's a cool effect. I dig that. I mean, it's not like they're the first ones to do it, but I have to say they did it really well. It just breaks down that silhouette so much and makes this seem like a thinner watch, even though it's 12.5, which is not that bad. 12.5 millimeters thick, not a bad deal considering that, yeah, these do have 100 meters of water resistance and screw down crowns, which is great. These are also regulated to 4 positions, which is great, and they're all should be within plus or minus 10 seconds per day. These are regulated in-house. These are all using Seiko Instruments NH38s, which are all no date movements, so there won't be any ghost position. Also, I will say the crown engagement is very nice. I have had problems with NH38s in the past where basically when the hacking feature, when you push the crown in, it would just be ultra mushy. And it wasn't just Nodus, it wasn't just any particular brand. It just seemed like everybody that was using NH38s, when I would compare them to an let's say NH35, the action was just a bit mushy when you'd re-engage the hack feature. Here, these have all been very sharp and really nicely engaging. So big props to Seiko or to Nodus for getting good ones, which, you know, considering that they do, you know, pretty much the last legs of everything here in California, I can definitely appreciate that level of extra attention to detail. Let's see, what other information here? So another difference, you're getting a stepped dial, of course. Here, they all are kind of slightly stepped, but I will say the stepped bezel definitely plays up more on the field model. You're getting that stepped bezel effect there. Then it ties into the stepped nature on the dial. You can see the inner ring stepped. And then here, again, you do have that little step, which is kind of what creates that sector appearance in terms of what you're looking at, you know, at an overall kind of at a macro. So the nice thing is all of these do have very similar dimensions because they're from the same family of watch. So the tapers on here are going to go 20 millimeters down to 18. Milled, push button clasps here, as you can see, very nicely signed. You're going to get also the nice, transitions between the brushing and polish, or the matte blasted and polished. So that's all good stuff, guys. With that, let's go ahead and get these on the wrist and really see how they wear. All right, guys, so I only have 2 wrists, but I decided to kind of take the 2 most different models. Here you can see with the matte finish on the field versus all of the great ornate details on this beads of rice on the dive version. And you can see how clean they wear, how flat they wear on the wrist. Fantastic. Great rotation, nice and comfortable. Of course, these are very similar in terms of the way they're going to wear. Very much the same silhouette, much different in terms of the finishing though. And then of course the bezels are slightly different, and then you get into the general aesthetic of the dials and whatnot, and they're going to be quite different as well. But you can see as a field watch, tool watch, this thing hangs up there with the best of them. I mean, I could easily see this watch being worn as an affordable alternative to the very popular Hamilton khaki. I could also see this watch being worn, I mean, there's just honestly so many kind of big crown skin diver style watches out there. It's tough to even pinpoint a direct competitor, but this is just like you would expect for a watch from Nodus. It just wears beautiful. It has a fantastic look, and it makes you want to look at it. And then you have, of course, the sport model, which I'd say somewhere in the middle. Here, going to be very much on the dedicated field watch side, dedicated dive watch, and then you have the sports watch that is quite versatile, can be kind of dressed up, dressed down, has various different elements, and even just the dial style is really quite eye-catching. I dig that. And of course it's just going to wear exactly the same as the field model here. But let's actually do some loom shots, low light transitions, and closing thoughts. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. All right, check that out. These all just look brilliant. Amazing loom. It's one thing that has come to be, I'd say expected from micro brands, but I have to say it's still impressive every time. Wow. Mainstream brands, take note. Take notice. One thing I do like to work in though, of course, is low light transitions within my loom shots, just because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you'll be walking in and out of a building, walking underneath overhangs, underneath the shade of a tree, or just spending time out in your favorite automobile. So it is good to see what these watches render like in mixed lighting conditions, whether it be looking at how their finishes play with the light, capture and manipulate the light, or even just the color ways and how they render and pop depending on the level of lighting there. And you can see there's a lot of depth and a lot of difference here in the way that just the dials hold the light because of the finishing style. Look at the way the light dances more, of course, on that pronounced sunray dial versus next to it with the more silvery, pale silvery, matted, muted dial versus the, almost, gosh, the dial, like, just look at the way, on the field model, it just plays in with some kind of gradations there where you're getting light and dark in really fun, interesting ways. But you can also see that if I get into some very harsh lighting, that would typically expose any type of imperfection, still really looks great. Of course, again, these are you know, traveling kind of sample watches, so they're not going to be in the most perfect condition, but they still look quite handsome. And look at that Loom, still a great performer. Very nice. And what you'd expect in terms of which ones are the longest lasting, you know, with the field kind of having a bit of a disadvantage, the diver having the advantage, and then the sport model being a great all-arounder. So guys, the Nodus sector line, sport, field, dive, what are your guys' thoughts? I enjoy these very much in terms of on wrist. Really nice proportions, very comfortable and balanced wear. I'd say they are a bit small, but quite hefty and solid feeling, so definitely makes up for it from that perspective. In terms of model variants, definitely check the site for availability. I believe they do have a pilot variation that may have recently become available or available again, so check those links. I'd say in terms of comparable models, there's a little something for everyone, so it's hard for me to compare like, oh yeah, there's also, I'd say each three of these can compare to something that's more mainstream, but is there anything out there that is as kind of targeted and kind of cool as the sector line? I have trouble imagining, you know, anybody that's gone out there and kind of done something similar. I know that the everyday watch versus dedicated diver watch honestly comes up a lot, but I think it's cool that they've distilled that even further and said, oh, let's do a field watch variant, right? Not just the everyday versus the diver. Let's throw a field watch in there. Let's also throw in a really cool pilot's watch, which hopefully I'll be sharing on the channel here, not in the not too distant future. So guys, for me, bottom line here is the team at Nodus just really continue to impress. And their latest batch really just improve on this excellent formula that they've had. They've been very successful with, and I do wish them continued success because they are absolutely an enthusiast run brand. They are not disruptors of the of the mainstream or anything like that. They're just people who like cool watches and produce cool watches, so I have to appreciate that. As you know, the level of enthusiast and collector that I am, and also in how casual that I am, I appreciate that they know who they are, they know what they offer, and you know, when they don't know, they ask, and when we give them feedback, they absolutely take it. So that's awesome. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks guys.